I knew something was wrong the moment she started matching my steps. Not glancing, not browsing, not shopping. Matching. 3 aisles straight, turn for turn, pause for pause. And right then, before she even opened her mouth, I had this sinking feeling in my chest that said, yeah, this isn't about groceries anymore. See, that morning started like any other Tuesday coffee, too hot. Laptop glowing spreadsheets waiting for me like they always do. Quiet apartment, sunlight sneaking through the blinds like it was minding its business. I'm 32, financial analyst, pretty boring life. Honestly, the wildest thing in my schedule was a quick store run for body wash, toothpaste, paper towels, 10 minutes in and out, you know what I mean? Nothing dramatic, nothing cinematic. Just a normal errand on a normal day, the kind of day you forget about 5 minutes after it ends. But somewhere between aisle 6 and aisle 9, I stopped being a shopper and became a suspect, and I didn't even realize it until I caught a reflection in the freezer glass behind me. Mid-50s, maybe stiff posture, lips pressed tight like she'd swallowed a complaint she was saving for later, eyes locked on me with this strange focus that didn't look curious, didn't look confused, looked certain. That's the word. Certain. I moved, she moved. I stopped, she stopped. 3 aisles. Same distance, same silence. And if you've ever felt someone watching you like that, you already know the feeling. It crawls up your spine. Slow and cold, makes your shoulders tighten, makes you start replaying your own movements like you're checking security footage in your head. At first I told myself I was imagining it. People look around stores all the time. Maybe she liked my jacket, maybe she was comparing prices, maybe I was being paranoid. But paranoia doesn't mirror your footsteps. That's when I reached into my purse, pulled out my phone, and hit record. Not for drama, not for attention, just because life has taught me one rule the hard way. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. I kept my voice steady, pointed the camera toward myself, and said quietly, "This woman's been following me for 3 aisles. She thinks I'm stealing." And like she'd been waiting for that exact cue, she stepped forward. No greeting, no hesitation, just straight into it. "Let me see inside your bag." Flat voice, confident, like she had authority she could hand me a receipt for. I blinked once, honestly thinking I misheard. "Excuse me." She leaned closer, eyes sharp. "I watched you put something in there. Open it, or I'll call the manager." And I swear to you, the store changed temperature right then, like the air conditioning dropped 10 degrees and spotlighted us both. Because that wasn't a question. That was an order. And suddenly, aisle 7 felt less like a grocery store and more like a courtroom where she'd appointed herself judge, jury, and security guard. I let out a small laugh, not because it was funny, but because sometimes your brain glitches when reality does something ridiculous. "Ma'am," I said, still filming, "you're not security." She didn't smile, didn't blink. "Open the bag," calm, controlled, like she was reminding a kid to tie their shoes. And weirdly, that calmness was scarier than yelling would have been, because yelling means emotion, but calm like that means she believed she was right. I tried explaining anyway, voice level, hands visible. I didn't take anything. I put my phone back in my purse. That's it. She didn't react. Nothing in her face shifted. Facts hit her and slid off like rain on glass. "Don't lie to me," she said quietly, and then under her breath, just loud enough for me to hear, "You people always say that." There it was. Translation complete. Suddenly everything made sense, the staring, the tracking, the certainty. She hadn't seen a crime, she'd seen a category. I tilted the phone so it caught both of us. "You're accusing me of stealing. I saw you," she said, firmer now. Behind her, shoppers rolled carts past like background extras in a movie scene they didn't realize they were part of. One guy slowed down, looked, then kept walking. Nobody stepped in. Nobody said, "Hey, maybe don't interrogate strangers in aisle 7. Silence can be loud like that. When you're the one standing inside it, it presses on your chest, makes you feel like everyone's quietly voting against you. She folded her arms. "Manager. Now." She said it like she owned the building. And what hit me hardest wasn't what she said. It was how sure she was the system would back her up. She expected it, like she'd seen it happen before. That's when something inside me clicked into place. I wasn't leaving. "Go ahead," I told her. "Call him." Her eyes flickered just a little, like that line wasn't in her script, but she pulled out her phone anyway. 2 minutes later, the manager showed up, slightly out of breath, name tag, crooked eyes bouncing between us and the camera. She pointed at me like she was presenting evidence. "She stole something. Check her bag." He hesitated, and that hesitation told me he wasn't convinced, which meant he still had a choice. He looked at me. "Ma'am, did you—" "No," I said calmly. "And she's been following me, accusing me." I angled the phone toward him. "This is all recorded. You could almost hear the shift like a seesaw creaking as it tilts. He cleared his throat. "We can't search customers without cause." Her head snapped toward him. "I am the cause. I saw it." Tight smile from him. "That's not how that works." Her face changed then, not embarrassed, not apologetic, offended, like reality had just broken a promise it made her years ago. She leaned closer to him and lowered her voice sharp as glass. "You're going to let her walk out after stealing." He glanced at me again, at the phone, at the people watching, then said calmly, "I'm going to have to ask you to step back." And that was it. That was the sound of power shifting. Because suddenly she wasn't the authority anymore, she was just another customer and she knew it. "You're making a mistake," she whispered. "I know what I saw." He didn't argue, just repeated firmer. "Step back, please. Pride hates witnesses when it's losing." She turned and walked away, stiff-backed, like she expected applause that never came. I figured that was the end of it. Just another weird moment filed away in the cabinet of life stories you tell your friends later. Yeah, that happened. Except it wasn't the end, not even close. 2 days later, I posted the video. Not for revenge, not for fame, just because people kept telling me stuff like that doesn't happen anymore and I wanted proof it does. Within 48 hours, it had millions of views. Within 72, someone identified her. Within a week, her employer released a statement saying she was no longer with the company. Turns out she wasn't just anybody, she was a compliance director, literally a professional rule enforcer. Yeah, you can't make that up. But that was just the first domino. Because once people saw the video, others started talking. Employees, former coworkers, even someone who'd worked security at another store. Same pattern every time. Complaints, accusations, requests to have shoppers followed, always the same type of target. Suddenly the story wasn't what happened in that aisle. It was how many times had this happened before when nobody was filming. I filed a civil case not because I wanted a payout, but because paperwork forces truth to sit still. The legal process dragged like a slow storm, depositions, filings, endless documents. The kind of grind that tests whether you really want justice or just closure. But Discovery turned up something interesting. Incident logs. Pages of them. Records of past complaints she'd made. Requests she'd pushed, situations where staff quietly accommodated her instead of shutting it down. That silence had receipts. And once it was visible, it couldn't be ignored. The company settled publicly and rolled out a nationwide policy saying customers can't accuse, detain, or search other customers, period. One confrontation in aisle 7, corporate policy rewritten. As for her consequences, stacked up fast. Legal bills, job gone. Reputation gone, savings drained. Eventually, even her house went up for sale. People online said the internet ruined her life. I don't think so. I think her choices did that. The internet just turned on the lights. And me, I changed too, but not the way you'd expect. I started getting messages from strangers saying they'd lived the same story but never had proof. Teachers asked to show the clip in class. A filmmaker reached out. We made a documentary about everyday profiling. It ended up winning awards I still don't know where to put. But none of that was the real victory. The real victory was quiet. It was the next time I walked into a store, picked up what I needed, and nobody followed me. Nobody stared. Nobody questioned whether I belonged there. I grabbed my soap, my toothpaste, my paper towels, checked out, walked to my car, and for the first time in my life, I felt invisible in the best possible way. Normal, which is all I ever wanted. Still, there's one question that sticks with me. If I hadn't pressed record, would anyone have believed me? Would she still be doing the same thing to someone else right now? Some people say she got what she deserved. Others say it went too far. Honestly, I want to know what you think. Was it justice or was it punishment? And if you'd been there that day, card in your hands, watching it unfold, would you have stepped in or would you have just kept walking? Tell me in the comments, because these moments happen everywhere every day, and the only way they change is if people decide silence isn't neutral anymore.